All right, welcome into fourth quarter clutch. We're talking NFL Week 5. We're going to be talking about some fantasy. We got some Thursday night matchup here going on. So let's get right to it. Noah, what do you think about tonight's matchup between Buffalo and the Browns?
Well, the Bills need some defense really, really, really badly. And in case you haven't watched any of the Bills games this year, they are 21st in points allowed, 16th in yards allowed, 28th in passing yards allowed. They're really good against the run, but beside that, they're just a terrible defense. And the Browns have a really good wide receiver in Josh Gordon, who was unbelievable last week, and they have a really good tight end in Jordan Cameron. So the key to the game for the Bills is going to be, can they stop Jordan Cameron and Josh Gordon? What are your thoughts?
I think this comes down to the Browns defense against the Bills offense, actually, because basically that to me is like, if the Browns can stop the Bills offense, because they got some really good offensive weapons like EJ Manuel, and they got Steve Johnson, and Scott Chandler is a crazy underrated tight end. He is freaking huge. Okay, he's just ridiculous, and he's got some good hands too. So any safety or any secondary, let's just say any defensive player with Scott Chandler running at you, you're gonna be afraid. They're afraid. I swear they're afraid. That guy is a beast. But if they can stop that offense, I think Browns will take this for sure. I definitely have the Browns having a good solid game in this one. We'll just see if Brian Hoyer can continue what he's been doing the last couple weeks.
I also agree with that, but this is what I found that's interesting. I just looked at the injury report from yesterday going into tonight's game. Fred Jackson is probable. Stevie Johnson is probable. Mario Williams is probable. The questionable players are three very big-time players for the Bills. C.J. Spiller is questionable with the ankle. Ladovis McClellan, who's a pretty good quarterback, is questionable with the hamstring. And one of the best safeties in the league, Jarius Byrd, is questionable with the foot. And the Browns don't really have any big players that are out, unless you count Brandon Weeden, who was replaced by Brian Hoyer. They're not really missing anyone. And if the Bills don't have C.J. Spiller, it's going to be a long day running the football with Fred Jackson and Tashard Choice.
Yeah, plus looking at the Browns side of the ball, they got rid of Trent Richardson, but then they signed Willis McGahee. And Willis McGahee is a great running back. Had him for a couple of weeks. He's just getting comfortable now. I see him having a really good game this week. Actually, I actually picked him up in one or two of my fantasy leagues because I see him really breaking out this week and having a good game against the Bills, especially after the rushing yards they've been giving up.
I just want to say real quick, after seeing a video on NFL.com, that some people might be getting carried away with Brian Hoyer. There were apparently reports that teammates were comparing Brian Hoyer to Tom Brady in his demeanor and his work ethic. Please calm down. Brian Hoyer is nothing like Tom Brady. Do not mention him in the same sentence as Tom Brady. Wait a few seconds, at least in between sentences between Tom Brady and Brian Hoyer. That's all.
The only thing that you could compare those two on is their start, the way that they came in, because it was basically because of other quarterbacks that teams said, okay, we're gonna step off for this guy and bring in a different guy in, and they both had big time starts. But until Hoyer has, I don't know, at least 2 Super Bowls, you can't even put him in the same league.
He plays in Cleveland. Let's wait for him to get at least one.
Yeah, I know. Which would be a huge accomplishment just in that, And that team is known for getting Super Bowls. What are you talking about, Noah?
Yeah, the whole city, they win all the time.
Yes, like
But
I can't think of a year that they weren't in the Super Bowl the last like 10 years.
here, here's the thing that I'm gonna say about Brian Hoyer. We're gonna be able to see how good he is week 8. Week 8, they play the Kansas City Chiefs, and they've dominated the Giants. They dominated the Eagles. They have dominated every single week against offenses they have played. And if he could perform well against the Chiefs, I'll say he's worthy of being a top 15 quarterback. But until then, he's top 25 at best.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with you on that one. Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into some fantasy projections this week. Noah, who's maybe taking a little bit of a hit this week for you?
Well, I'm not going to state the obvious, which is like anyone that's been struggling, because that's too easy and anyone can do that. But the first guy on my list is Matt Schaub. And for my projections, I'm going based on ESPN Fantasy Football Standard projections. Matt Schaub is going against the San Fran defense, and in case you thought the San Fran defense was bad, they annihilated Sam Bradford last week, pretty much making him totally irrelevant. Sam Bradford had 202 passing yards, a touchdown, an interception, and a fumble for 8 fantasy points. Matt Schaub is playing them this week. The Texans love to ground and pound. They're going to run Arian Foster pretty much until the wheels come off. He's projected 219 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Now, I don't know what world ESPN is thinking where Matt Schaub only throws a touchdown. Only throws 1 interception, especially after what he did versus Seattle. I think he's lucky if he gets 200 passing yards, and I think he's lucky if he throws for less than 2 interceptions. So they're projecting him to get 14 fantasy points. I'll say he gets at most 12 fantasy points, maybe 8 or 10 sounds about right. And the other guy I'm looking at, which I think ESPN is jumping on the bandwagon a little too early, is Danny Woodhead. Now, Woodhead has had really nice weeks, and if you're in PPR league. For standard leagues, last week was probably the first time where he was actually relevant. And he got 2 touchdowns against the Dallas Cowboys, which is impressive. Bravo. But he's going versus Oakland this week. And Ryan Matthews is still healthy for however long that's going to happen. Darren McFadden went down last week, so this could be Ryan Matthews' week. They're usually just one after the other. They get hurt. And Woodhead is projected 60 total yards and a touchdown. And unless your name is Adrian Peterson, McCoy, or one of those top running backs, you're never guaranteed a touchdown. So he's projected 11 points. I like his numbers that I think he will get 60 total yards. I don't think he'll get the touchdown. So I think 6-7 points is reasonable. Brian, who do you like more than ESPN or whatever site you're looking at is projecting them?
So far I got 2 guys that I actually like a little bit more. First off, I like MJD actually. I think he's gonna have a much better week this week. He's had only 1 good fantasy week so far. He got about 13 fantasy points in week 2, but he's going against the Rams, and they have the 30th ranking defense in opposing rush yards and rush yards given up. So I see them. Plus, they've given up. I think they've given up 5 touchdowns to running backs so far. I mean, that's just obvious when MJD is your number 1 guy, and plus they're adding Justin Blackmon. He's back, so that's gonna give MJD just a little bit more wiggle room too, because they'll be able to actually throw the ball a little bit better. I mean, catch the ball, one or the other. They've had a lot of trouble with that. So with Blackmon coming back, with Justin Blackmon coming back, I see that giving MJD a little bit more room to run. Going to keep those defenses in a little bit more of a having to cover the receivers a lot closer. So I see him probably getting closer to that 13, maybe 15 fantasy points this week. we'll see. Probably like 70, 80 yards and a touchdown, something like that. The other guy I'm looking at is actually Ray Rice, and he's going up against one of the top 10 defenses in Miami. Actually, they're ranked 10th in opposing rush yards. The reason why I got him going up, getting a little bit of a boost, is first of all, Cameron Wake is actually hurt for Miami, so that's a big deal right there. Second of all, we saw what Sproles did last week against this Miami defense, and he got 114 yards with a touchdown receiving. Okay, and Ray Rice is a big-time receiving running back. Okay, so even if he doesn't get like a ton of rush yards, I see him getting at least 80 receiving yards. I mean, you add 80 receiving yards, even if he gets like 40 rush yards, that's 12 points right there, plus a touchdown. I give him 18 points, absolutely, against Miami there, especially after what they did against Sproles last week. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. And Ray Rice, I think he's got a chip on his shoulder so far. I think he's got something to prove too. So I think we'll see a lot more from him this week.
Real quick, because the games start tonight. What games on Sunday are you really looking forward to watching?
Let's see. I really got just a sec here. There's a couple of games that I'm actually. Oh yeah, New Orleans Chicago game. I am really looking forward to that game. That looks like it's going to be a really tight game. Division games, obviously, Detroit and Green Bay. That's going to be a nice one. I'm really looking forward to Seattle and Indy too. I think that's going to be interesting with Seattle on the road. And I mean, Indy is a good home team, home field advantage team. Not just that, but I mean, they've looked amazing this year. So, wow, that's a really big one. Everybody's looking forward to Philly and Giants. Nah.
Maybe Giants fans are.
I don't know. Houston San Fran could be a good game. That could be an okay game. That's probably going to be a really big defensive game. So those are probably the top 3-4 games I'm looking forward to right there. Yeah, those are going to be some good games. What about you? What are you looking forward to?
I'm honestly looking forward to how the Patriots continue their role against the Bengals. Bengals didn't look that good last week, and Campbell Tompkins has stepped it up. Blount is doing all right. They're slowly getting better, and it'll be interesting to see how the defense does without Vince Wilfork, who won't be blocking around 3 feet of space in the defensive line. So maybe the running backs will actually be able to run around them. Lions Green Bay for sure. That's going to be a high-scoring shootout. Obviously, Seattle. There are a lot of good games. I see all the 1 o'clock games are pretty much really good games. Seahawks, Colts, Ravens, Dolphins.
It's the night games that aren't really that good.
Unless you're on the East Coast and you have to watch the Giants and Eagles, go on a website and try and watch Saints Bears, because that could be one of the ugliest games you see this year. Vic could honestly have a game like he did against the Redskins like 3 years ago, where he was just unbelievable. Broncos, Cowboys.
The good news in the Philly Giants game is that one of those teams is going to come away with a win.
I'm honestly really looking forward to Broncos Cowboys, especially with Romo playing pretty well this year. Notice I said pretty well. I'm not saying he's Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, or any of those, but he is having a pretty good year this year, and he goes against a very good defense. And of course, to see Peyton Manning throws for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns, whatever Peyton feels like throwing.
A dozen, why not?
Whatever he feels like throwing before John Fox takes him out of the game. Texans Raiders. I mean not Raiders. Texans Niners will be definitely an interesting game.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Jet game, unless you're a Falcons fan, do me a favor and do not turn into the Monday night game with the Jets and Falcons. The Falcons are going to destroy them. I'm not talking about like what the Titans did, where it just looked the Jets looked bad on offense. No. The Falcons will make them look bad on offense, and then they'll just destroy them with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, 70% Roddy White, Tony Gonzalez, Chris Rogers.
Basically, you got like one of the top 5 at least passing offenses going against one of the best rushing offenses. So it's like it's a perfect situation for them to just throw on them like crazy. And I mean Julio Jones, wow, ridiculous game.
And the thing that's going to be pretty surprising this week, due to the Oakland Athletics making the playoffs, the Chargers and Raiders will be playing at 11:35 Eastern time. So if you're out west, it's pretty much like a Sunday night game for you. It's an 8:30 start. You'll watch the game, be asleep at 11:30, 12 o'clock, depending on how many points the team's like scoring. And if you're a person like Brian Ziegler, who's a Raiders fan that live out east, well, you'll be going to sleep around 2:30, get some coffee, some Red Bull, some soda, whatever you want to do. Make sure you have a lot in your stomach. Make sure you have a lot of adrenaline, because you might be passed out around halftime if you don't have it, because that's going to go late until the night.
Actually, when I was abroad at one point, I would get up at 4 a.m. to watch the games for the Raiders games, actually. So I'm used to being up late watching the games. So it's not gonna be an issue for me.
And if it goes into OT, it might end at 3 o'clock in the morning.
We'll see. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for me to see like how the field conditions come in on that one, actually, because how they factor in, because they're doing a fairly quick changeover from one day to the next. So we'll see what happens with that, but that could be interesting.
That's a battle between the third best. Whoever will win will probably end up being the third best team in the AFC West.
We'll see. Yeah.
I don't see either team taking out the Chiefs or the Broncos.
We'll see what happens. It could happen. All right. Anything can happen in the NFL. We leave you with that thought.
I didn't hear that. Random guy, get out of the corner.
Stop it.
Go outside. They're not going to win this week.
Just don't even tune in. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I'm Brian Ziegler. That's Noah Weintraub. Thanks for tuning in. Keep in touch with Fourth Quarter Clutch. We got more entertainment and fun, and we're going to have some more predictions coming up for Sundays as well. So tune in later. Thanks.